Yo, good morning. Freedom Marcher, Freedom Family, Freedom Lovers, and Freedom Fighters. Damn,
Approaching a railroad
still sweating
crossing.
like a big dog. Snapzilla Gorillas in the building. Hitting y'all with this quick live stream. I just got through just leaving the park where I did some drills and some sprints. Man, it's hot as a motherfucker out there. It's like, felt like it was 90 something degrees, man. But you know, I got to get it in. Just wanted to make an observation real quick. I wanted to make an observation regarding Brian Norman Jr. versus Devin Haney. And it's really about the circuit that Brian Norman Jr. is on doing these interviews, and what he's actually talking about in those interviews and what his focus seems to be. Stephen X, salute to you. Assalamu alaikum, brother. So I felt like I make a quick discussion about it. On my way back to the house, I got to finish up my workout. You know what I'm saying? Anyway. So yeah, Brian Norman Jr. is on his tour, you know, just doing press and talking about this fight and you know, espousing conspiracy theories and all that shit. And, you know, hey man, you know, he's doing what he wants to do. So, but one thing I did notice is that when it comes to him facing Devin Haney, he's extremely hyper focused on knocking Devin out.
Approaching a railroad crossing.
He's hyper focused on that. It seems that he understands that's the only way he can beat Devin, right? He knows that he doesn't have the tools to outbox Devin, right? He doesn't have the tools to outmaneuver Devin in terms of ring generalship. He doesn't have the tools to outwork Devin in terms of cardiovascular output. And so he understands that the only way he can beat Devin is to knock him out. So with that understanding, I believe Devin can make it even simpler for himself if he just fights the right fight, right? Now, Brian Norman Jr. does have a puncher's chance, right? He might be able to knock Devin out with one punch. We don't know that because he faced an arguably more powerful puncher and more experienced power puncher in Ryan Garcia, and was able to weather the storm and finish the fight on his feet. Ryan Garcia, in my opinion, has faced tougher competition than Brian Norman Jr. You know, he's been able, now arguably his resume has an asterisk next to it because he got popped dirty for performance enhancing drugs. So there's that, right? But that doesn't take away from the fact that Ryan Garcia hit Devin with those PED infused left hooks that people like Knockoff Pity Pat will tell you was the last reason Devin lost, okay? Because Ryan Garcia was on PEDs. Because he's a sucker ass motherfucker, right? Anyway. But Brian Norman Jr. is hyper focused on this KO he thinks he's going to get. And I don't think it's some type of mind game or ploy. I think he understands it. And I think he knows the world understands it. I think he knows Devin understands it. And so what he'll be looking to do is deliver a KO as fast as possible. I think he's going to try to do it within the first 3 rounds. He's going to be swinging for the fences. He might throw a jab every now and then, but, you know, he likes to lunge too, right? He's going to lunge. He's going to throw these leaping left hooks and all these different haymakers. And all Devin has to do is make a miss each time. You know, give the impression that he's in range and just get out of range as soon as Brian Norman telegraphs his punches, right? I don't see Brian Norman Jr. throwing a lot of feints either. So I think that when he does telegraph and he commits, right? I think he commits to every punch. I think he puts stank on every punch. And what Brian Norman Jr. is going to have to do is not look to rely on that knockout. If he wants to beat Devin, he's going to have to set traps. He's going to have to be smarter. He's going to have to use some IQ, right? He's going to have to use some of that footwork that we believe he has, that he has shown flashes of using against other fighters, right? But when it comes to pure boxers, I mean, he didn't have too much success with that. But the bottom line is, I think that is very interesting. Everywhere he goes, he talks about putting Devin to sleep, right? Or I'm going to put Devin to sleep. Yes, Stephen X, they're hyper-focused on weight and power. Well, they forget, it seems, that Devin is going to be just as big. Gene Diaz says, hey, you 100% right. Relying on the KO might lose him the fight. I think that it will. I think Brian Norman Jr. understands that. He should understand that he has a lot to work on, right? When he faces elite fighters that he hasn't faced before. He has not faced an elite level fighter. And these knockouts don't come as easy when you increase your in competition. Once you go up in competition, whether it's weight or it doesn't even matter what the weight is, because y'all are fighting at the same weight class. So you both have an opportunity to get as big as 147 will allow. It's not just you, right? Yes, Brian Norman Jr. appears to be more powerful than Devin Haney, but relying on that is not going to get him the win, right? Because like I said, all Devin has to do is stay out of range of those power punches. All Devin has to do is make him miss. When Brian Norman has the tendency to miss targets right there in front of him. I've seen it. Like, the dude's right there in front of you. He has no head movement. His head is on the center line, but you're still missing. And the guy's standing right there in front of you. He's not using any footwork. He's not leaning back. He's just standing there and you're missing. Because what your eyes have to see the target before you can land it, right? And your hands are the rangefinder, right? So your jab is the rangefinder. So if you're not using your jab often enough, you know, whether it's a stab to the body, whether you're probing, whether you're throwing a strong jab, whether you're sticking a jab, that jab is the rangefinder. If you're not good at knowing what your range is without using your lead hand, then you're going to miss. And if your eyes can't see the target, 9 times out of 10, you're going to miss. So if your eyes aren't on the target before you throw the punch, you're liable to miss. I know, because I've done it. I've done it in sparring. I've done it on the heavy bag, right? You get in the zone and you think you know where the bag is, especially if you have I got a 60-pound teardrop bag, right? That's good for kicks, right? If I want to do a lot of fast kicks with my right leg, you know, it's good for that, because that round bottom gives you kind of like where the ribs are going to be. It gives you that same level and that same curve like that. But anyway, if your eyes aren't on the target, you're liable to miss. And if you're not used to getting your hands back as fast as possible when you miss, you can get yourself out of position. You can get yourself off balance and all that type of shit. Leave yourself open to counter. So I noticed that Brian Norman Jr. does that quite a bit. But it didn't matter before necessarily, because he was going up against fighters that would not readily exploit that. Devin's going to readily exploit that. So there's that. You know, so I just think it's interesting that I hope he's working on more than just trying to knock out Devin. I hope he's working on stamina, cardio. And I'm not necessarily like running long distances, right? You have to get your wind sprints up, right? Because if you are a fast twitch muscle fiber type of person like Brian Norman Jr. appears to be, long distance running won't necessarily help you improve your stamina. No, you got to do wind sprint, wind sprint, wind sprint. So you need to train how you fight. So if you're a power puncher and you want to improve stamina as a power puncher, then it's best for you to do a lot of wind sprints with short breaks. You know what I'm saying? Give yourself something to do in between the sprints, so you're not just sitting there resting the whole time. You're actually working between sprints, and then you sprint all out again for a distance, and then boom, you go right back to the same thing. Like what I do is I do a 100-yard sprint, and then I'll jump rope, and then I'll do some Muay Thai combinations, back and forth, 20 meters out, 20 meters back, and then I do that twice, and then I sprint again. So, and of course, between 100-yard sprints, I give myself maybe like a minute and a half, right? Because each time I sprint, I want to be able to go to the max. You know what I'm saying? That is what I notice helps me improve my cardio. On top of that, I hate long distance running. I hate jogging. It's I hate it. Jogging long, I hate it. But anyway, Stephen A says, seen Brian get dropped. He was baited to chase an opponent in the ropes and got caught. Yes, and that's another thing. He did get dropped for that very reason. And it also has to do with that lunging. When you lunge, you're putting your upper body ahead of your feet. So what you're doing is you're taking your you have a center of gravity. Once you tip over that center of gravity and all your weight is over that center of gravity, you're making yourself more susceptible to getting knocked down. It might not even hurt, but guess what? It's a knockdown, and that's going to count against you. That's basically what happened to Regis Prograis. I think Brian Norman Jr. versus Devin is going to look less like Ryan Garcia versus Devin and more like Regis versus Devin. And I know, right? Regis Prograis is ass all of a sudden. He has no footwork. He's not an athlete. All that. Yeah, okay. It's just that Devin was able to take away Regis Prograis' weapons. And we talk about footwork as though Brian Norman Jr. has demonstrated that he has excellent footwork. He has not demonstrated that because he hasn't had to, right? He hasn't had to demonstrate that. In all the fights that he's had, he hasn't had to demonstrate that. And when he may have been forced to demonstrate it, he got outdone by his opponent, right? So I think that is very interesting that he's hyper-focused on that knockout. I think he's going to try to knock Devin out early. I don't know if they started camp yet, but once he starts camp, he might want to look at, okay, I need to do more. I need to not leave myself so open to counters. I need to work on my stamina. I need to, work on my footwork. I need to work on my punch placement. I need to work on my accuracy. I need to work on my range finding. Because these are things that he lacks. Right? These are tools that he lacks as a boxer that I've seen. I mean, it is what it is, y'all. And Devin's going to just have to use his great footwork. He's going to have to, you know what I'm saying? He's going to have to utilize that jab, use the shit out of that jab. That jab is going to be his best friend, right? The 1-2, right? Because Brian Norman Jr. is going to be open to straight punches, right? He's going to be open to straight punches to the body, straight punches to the head. Devin is going to have to get the angle on him, get around him, go for the body. A lot of body work. It's going to have to be a lot of body work. Rodney Telemo, salute to you. Salute to you, brother. So, these are things that they're going to both going to have to do that, right? If Devin gets complacent and has success, if he has success early and keeping Brian Norman Jr. at range with that jab and, loses focus on defense and all that, he can get crushed. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think Devin is a veteran, a highly decorated veteran who's been through multiple fires, and he improves every time. Like he adjusts every time, right? So, You know, it is what it is, y'all. But on another note, yeah, I look up this morning and I see that Knockoff Pity Pat has dedicated a video to me. Congratulations. He finally got his chance to argue me to death on YouTube. And he won on point technicalities, like an amateur, right? Like an amateur fight. That is basically what it is. It is based on just the point system. And I didn't watch the video. I just posted it on my community tab. So that shows how much I care that he wants to insult me, right? It doesn't, I don't care about any of that. What I do know is that I destroyed him on BFTB's channel, whether he outpointed me or not. Whether, you know, some of my points were missed, and I know quite a few were. You know, it is what it is. You know, BFTB is a human being, but it wasn't malicious on BFTB's part. I understand that, right? Because we were both getting off a lot of shit. And, you know, as fast as he can type and as fast as brain processes things, you know, it can't process everything. And if I don't point out what I missed, or if I don't point out what I feel he missed, well, I mean, it is what it is. But I do know that the veracity of my points far outweighed the veracity of his emotional points, right? Because he did a lot of appeal to emotion, trying to suck people in with this thing about, oh, well, you know, Tonka Truck, he needs to support his family and give out turkeys and, you know, the nonprofit and this, that, and the third. And man, get the fuck out of here. What that got to do with boxing? What that got to do with your place in boxing and what you can do with boxing? That's my question. Your mentality. What does all that have to do with Tonka Truck's mentality and how his career is going to progress if his mind ain't in the right place? But yeah, he did a video. I didn't watch it, but you know, y'all can go check it out. I don't know. Of course, he's probably shitting on me, and you know, it is what it is. I don't care. He cares about things like that. I just wanted to. I think it's interesting. What's most interesting to me is the nickname he gave me. Completely unoriginal and completely corny. And I wish he'd have come up with something better. Like, I like what Black called me when Knockoff called me out the second time on BFTB's channel. You know, first of all, I don't go by Freedom's March. That's the name of the channel. That's the name of this platform. This platform is Freedom's March. I go by Snapzilla Gorilla, but you know, it is what it is. But he said, he called it Freedom, as in D-U-M-B. Freedom March. I mean, that's not very original at all. Stephen A says the whole PBC August card was canceled because of Tank. Yes, he's selfish and bad for the sport. And that was another point. That was a point that I wanted to get off if I'd have gone first. But it's all good. You know, I did bring up how he's bad for the sport. He is bad for the sport. And he's bad for 135. And if he don't get on board with Turkey, and Turkey's going to want him to fight the best. If he don't get on board with Turkey, you know, and challenge himself, I mean, he going to get left behind. So all that money that Knockoff Pity Pat used to get all his points off are meaningless. But yes, Knockoff Pity Pat 69 TV is much more original, and it's much better than Freedom. Lawrence the Mighty, salute to you. Is that Lawrence Rittenhoe? Do you change your name, Lawrence? No, Lawrence, Lawrence Rittenhoe had a wrench. But yes, salute to you, Lawrence the Mighty. I mean, yeah, Freedom, free D-U-M-B. I mean, that's what the liberals call MAGA people, right? I mean, when they say we want freedom, but that's corny as fuck, bro. Like, can you come up with something better? Like, I like what Black called me, because you know I call Black all kind of shit, white lies, translucent bullshit, you know, all that type of shit, all that. But Black called me Slavery Walk. That shit was funny as hell. When I saw that, I was like, bro, that's a good one. Slavery Walk. That's a good one. But Freedom, I mean, come on, bro. And then he called me a Devin Haney. He called me a Devin Haney knob gobbler. I'm like, what? I mean, I rock with Devin. I support Devin. But I don't think I've ever attacked anybody on Devin's behalf on a personal level, right? It's always based on logic, in my opinion, where I go in on people who shit on Devin, right? When they, and it's always coming from a moral stance, right? So like, yeah, if you are shitting on Devin because he got drug cheated, I'm gonna call it out. If you if you try to say that, oh well, Devin's a pillow-fisted chinny motherfucker and he ain't shit, then why aren't your favorite fighters fighting him? Why is everybody ducking Devin? Devin is putting himself through, he is challenging himself at every turn. He's looking to progress further and further every time he gets in the ring. Even if he's fighting someone like a Jose Ramirez, which is just a stepping stone to get back in the game and make sure that he's right on point. Right? Because now he's fighting Brian Norman Jr. And everybody's doing their level best to make it appear that Devin wants to pull out of this fight. So when I respond to all the bullshit with logic, I guess I'm not knob gobbling, right? So I guess knob gobbling equals, operating from a moral stance embedded in logic and derived from factual truths, right? From facts and truth. So, okay, like if you say Devin is trying to pull out of the Brian Norman fight, why did he push to make the Brian Norman Jr. fight in the first place? So it all boils down to, if you make an ad hoc or a post hoc declaration, then I'm going to tear it apart. So what's a post hoc? It's post hoc ergo propter hoc, right? Which means it's a fallacy, which means that because this happened, you automatically assume it's because of this, without any factual basis behind it, without any evidence, without any proof, there's nothing behind it. You're just stating that, right? Like saying, oh, because Devin wants Brian Norman Jr. to sign up for VADA testing immediately, that means Devin wants to not fight Brian Norman Jr. That's a post hoc ergo propter hoc fallacy, right? So if I say that makes no fucking sense, because first of all, why would Devin put him on the hit list? And not only did Devin put him on the hit list, but Devin actually made efforts to get everybody else on the hit list that was above Brian Norman Jr. So when it came to Brian Norman Jr. and they expressed interest in wanting to fight Devin, what happened? Well, Devin had Turkey send Brian Norman, the Normans, an offer and all this good shit. But guess what? Devin didn't have to, Devin had already accepted essentially and was ready to go. So Devin initiated the talks for the Brian Norman Jr. fight, and the Normans had to pick up the ball. The ball was in their court. And then all this silly, crazy, wild, stupid shit started happening with Adrian Clark and Brian Norman Sr. Talking a lot of stuff and not even really knowing what's going on, admittedly from his own mouth. Right? So this whole time, all the delays have come from the Norman side. But because Devin wants Brian Norman Jr. to sign up for VADA testing immediately, as it's outlined in the contract, reportedly, now you want to say that Devin's the one that wants to pull out. So everybody on this campaign to shit on Devin is now saying, yeah, I knew Devin wanted to pull out this fight. Sean Porter, True Media, all these clowns running around, help pushing this narrative that Devin Haney wants to pull out the fight. And pushing the narrative that if Brian Norman Jr. pops dirty, guess what? That means that there was some contemporation going on. Contemporation. That's the word, by the way. Contemporation means to contaminate through tampering. That means that Because you can get something can be contaminated naturally or on accident. But when you do it on purpose, it's called contaminating. Stephen A says going on a vacation after fight date. It still tells me Brian is not focused as much as Devin is. I know Devin training. Listen, man. Brian Norman Jr. can go ahead and believe that he ain't got to do nothing but simply put hands on Devin Haney and think that Devin's going to go night-night immediately. Okay, roll with that. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. My prediction is, this is what I think. I think even if Brian Norman Jr. lands a good punch, I don't think it's going to do what y'all think it's going to do. It's not going to do what I believe what y'all believe it's going to do. Right? I don't think so. So at the end of the day, if I'm a knob gobbling, as Knockoff Pity Pat says, I guess I'm doing it for the right reasons. I don't know. See, people like to throw these words and insults around without any veracity or any basis behind it, just because they're upset, right? Now, I do know Knockoff Pity Pat is a Tonka Truck Davis baby muncher. I do know that because he defends and goes to bat and dick rides Tonka Truck Davis out of emotion, for emotional reasons, right? Having nothing to do with how Tonka Truck Davis moved throughout his career. Because at this point in time, you're still defending Tonka Truck Davis and trying to present him as this elite fighter when he has not done anything elite in the sport. He has done everything to self-sabotage his own career throughout his entire career. From the point before he was supposed to fight Pedraza to now. He had to, he felt threatened by his fight against Pedraza by Floyd Mayweather. What does that tell you? That tells you that Tonka Truck never really wanted to challenge himself in the sport. Yes, Stephen X. Tank fans have a trauma bond. Salute, Stormy B, man. Salute to you. I'm just talking about Brian Norman Jr. I don't know how long you've been listening. I'm just talking about Brian Norman Jr. relying on the KO is going to get his ass beat. That's all. And then, of course, it goes into other things. But, every time I defend Devin and every time I go to bat for Devin and support Devin is based on what he's doing in his career. It's based on what he's doing in his career. I think Devin is going to whoop on Brian Norman Jr. for reasons that I have stated that are based on actual evidence that I've seen. All you got to do is watch Brian Norman Jr. Watch Devin Haney, and you will see these things bear out. Brian Norman Jr. has to do more than go in there and swing for the fences. That's not going to work against Devin. It's not going to work. Right? It's not going to work. So, yes, I think Devin is my favorite fighter in the sport right now. Not because he has a cool haircut or because he has dazzling knockouts, because he doesn't. Or for whatever reason, whatever weird attraction certain individuals have toward Tonka Truck, I don't have that same thing going on with Devin. Devin is just doing things in the sport to demonstrate that he wants to be the best. Lawrence the Mighty said, there's no way I would complain about being inconvenienced, even if I was on vacation. If I do a drug test for an event with someone that's giving me life, a changing payday. Yeah, it's just a bunch of nonsense, right? It's a bunch of nonsense. Now, I'm not saying that Brian Norman Jr. is a drug cheat, but it might be because he doesn't understand. Maybe he didn't understand what the deal was. Maybe he didn't understand how VADA testing worked. I don't know, because he never VADA tested. So, excuse me, at the end of the day, we'll see what happens. But even with PEDs, If Brian Norman Jr. can't put hands on Devin and keep his stamina up past the 3rd or 4th round, he is going to get picked apart and embarrassed. Devin is going to pick him apart from the very first round, right? But he's going to be more cautious. Wisdom, what you talking about? God used to get advice from him, and now what? Huh? What is you talking about? So, I mean, if he's going to rely on that power, listen, that power is not going anywhere. Keep that in the holster. It's not going anywhere. It's always loaded. It's always ready for action, right? Okay, so you got your power. Let's work on some fundamentals. Let's work on stamina. Let's work on your jab, right? Let's work on the jab. Let's work on maybe going to the body more. Let's work on slowing Devin down. Let's work on cutting off the ring. Why do you think Vegas is giving odds to Brian? Because, well, the reason Brian Norman Jr. is going around talking about he's going to put Devin to sleep, because they think it's going to be easy work for Brian Norman Jr. and that all Brian Norman Jr. has to do is land a punch. That's what they think. That's probably why they're giving the odds to. Well, can y'all hear me? This the teardrop bag I was talking about. That's good for guess who did this? Guess who did this? Thank you, Stephen X, for that. Romeo Lima Charlie. Look at that. Who did this? I'll show you the murder weapon. This is the murder weapon, y'all. See that? You know who did that? With this and this. Look at that. A perfectly good teardrop bag. And it's good quality too, man. This right here, Pro-Last, very good quality. But now it's not destroyed yet. I still use it. And I don't even bother putting duct tape on it because, I mean, it hasn't gotten any bigger. I still kick on it. Anyway, my son did that, my oldest son. An 11-year-old boy decided that he was going to come in my garage while I was at work, mess with my stuff, cut up some cardboard, and slash at my teardrop bag. Look, just, but it's all good. I still get work on it. I'm about to get work on it right now in a minute. Anyway, the live got disrupted because my phone overheated. So it's hot. Talent-wise, I like Shakur and Bud a lot more, but respect Devin's heart and skill for sure. Yes. Stormy B-Man says Devin's a guard for more dangerous fighter than credited. If he weren't there, he'd be. Yes. Many who'd be trying to get at him. Yes. That's what I'm saying. They know. But it's cool to treat Devin as though he's just a pillow-fisted whatever. You know what I mean? It's easy to do that. Oh, my son? Oh, he's still breathing. He's still breathing. You know what I mean? And I My son didn't do this. That's just from years of wear and tear. But these are I got some good quality bags, y'all. Like this is my kick bag. You know, uh, it kind of rests on the ground so that when you low kick it, it doesn't move too much. And then I got my angled bag. I don't even use it no more because the teardrop serves the same purpose. If I want to work on uppercuts, like here, this straight bag, some people don't like hitting the straight bag with uppercuts because, of the angle, and it could mess they end up hurting their wrist or whatever the case may be. I'm not really concerned with that, but because I don't hit the bag with gloves, like with 16-ounce gloves or anything like that, like with traditional boxing gloves. I hit them with these. This right here, and you see the thumb got a hole in it from the work. But these are an older pair, very little padding. So, I don't use hand wraps when I use these unless I'm doing fight camp. If I'm doing fight camp, I only wear the wraps to keep these from coming out. So to hold this, it's the punch tracker. Bag mitts are the best. Absolutely. I love those things. Here are my newer pair. So I've had these almost as, I use these more now, but they're in better condition because I figured out how to not screw them up so much. I mean, they're still worked. They're still used, right? But the thing about it is leaving the sweat in there and the sweat and all that breaking down the material. So I put these in there, right? It freshens the gloves. It absorbs the moisture. It makes your gloves last longer. These are my really old, right? These are back when I thought that wearing thick gloves with thick padding was better for your hands. These are Muay Thai boxing gloves. I got all kind of gloves. I got my shin guards up here. I got some equipment. You know what I mean? So yeah, I like these Venoms, but I haven't used these in months. I just go, once I figured out, look, these right here, if you're gonna hit the heavy bag and you wanna make sure your punch placement is on point, and you wanna make sure that you're hitting with those two big knuckles, right? It's best to use these because you can still feel the glove. I mean, you can still feel the bag on your knuckles, and you know exactly where you need to place your punches. Because when I started way back in the day, I had a coach who said he wouldn't let us use gloves at first. He would have us hit the bag with our bare fists, just so we know that we're turning over that punch. You got to turn the punch over right, and you got to land on those knuckles because it's just anatomically better than just randomly hitting on the bottom two knuckles, right? So you have more structural support. And he wouldn't even let us use the gloves or the hand wraps until we learned how to place them knuckles. Until we got it down, right? So the gloves came later, but this is perfect because, and he wouldn't let us. Yeah, we would hit the gloves, or hit the bag barehanded, but we weren't hitting it hard. It was just for technique, right? And then once you get the gloves, you can go harder on the bag. But with these, you can go hard on the bag and still make sure you have that knuckle placement on point. So, yeah, these are strictly for the bag. Yes, bag mitts will have you make good form. It'll make sure you're turning those punches over. And if you're not hitting it right, you're going to feel it. So, and it strengthens your wrists, right? If you're not wearing a bunch of wraps and relying on the wraps, no, you're building up tendon strength. You're building up, knuckle strength, and there's tendons and tiny bones in your hands that you're strengthening, right? Structural integrity. You're improving the structural integrity of your knuckles, right? And your hand and your wrist. So that's what I got, man. But I'm gonna finish up. I'm gonna go ahead and finish up my Muay Thai training. I got about an hour left of that, and then me and my kids, we're gonna go to the pool. My wife is in California, hanging out with my sister and her mother and all that. Her mother had a comedy show last night, so I might actually share my mother-in-law's comedy, what they call that, set. And y'all let me know what y'all think. I'm gonna go ahead and share it on my YouTube as soon as she gives me the video. So apparently she's funny. My wife said that she's actually was the funniest comedian on stage. So she just started doing comedy last year. She said, you know what, I'm gonna be a comedian. So she went through, she did some open mics, and she took a class, and then basically she graduated last month from her comedy class, and she got to do an actual set where it wasn't like an open mic. It was like a showcase. And apparently she was the funniest one. So my wife said she saw Black Jesus up there at the show. Not Devin, but Black. Y'all remember that show? Man, that was a great show. It only was on for 2 seasons. I was mad as hell. Black Jesus, man, it was I forgot what that dude's name is. He was a comedian. Real tall dude, like 6'7", 6'8". And he was Black Jesus in the show. And that shit was funny as hell. She saw him up there. But anyway, I'm gonna holler at y'all later, man. Let me get off this thing and finish up. But yeah, man, Brian Norman Jr., man, if you're gonna be just looking for that knockout, I hope you got a better plan than that. Because even though you're going up against Devin, I still want to see you show us that you got something more going on than just that knockout, right? Because I believe he's very talented. So I like Brian Norman Jr. You know what I'm saying? But he's going up against Devin, so it is what it is. Anyway, I'm gonna holler at y'all later, man. Yes, Ring IQ. I'm gonna holler at y'all later, man. Y'all be safe out there. Y'all beat the heat. It's hot as hell in some places. And yeah, much love, like, share, subscribe. And let's keep marching forward toward freedom. Peace out, y'all.